Okay, let's go ahead and ask. So let's start with knowing who everybody is and what their interest. Who here uses free software in a kind of day-to-day basis? Raise your hand. Who uses Ubuntu for that purpose? Wow, this is going to be easy. So we are the Ubuntu community. Thanks, that was my talk. And who develops free software? Wow, that's impressive. So first of all, before starting my talk, I would actually want everybody to thank with a big round of applause to Laura and Jamie for making this happen. So if we can. So if anything goes wrong, you have to go to them. If you have any questions, any moral support.
So that you can go to the way.
What? Yes, especially if you're from the female gender. What? Also, I would like to really thank and say it's an honor for everybody to be awake at this time in the morning, especially in a Saturday, to listen to me. I know you've all been pushed to be here, and you're not with like total free will, so I'm sorry for that. Especially some people that had to come with Jan and Jamie, even though he didn't want it. So my talk is about the Ubuntu community, which is a very broad concept, but I'm going to try and simplify it and not go into much of a detail, but just say how kind of things work and why they are as they are. My name is Bethencourt, and my story is I've always been really interested in technology and art, and I've always had very diverse kind of interests. And when I was studying high school, seeing my dad being an architect and thinking that's what I could actually do to change the world and do a change and do something with my life that means something, I was really sure I want to study architecture. So I had my curricula change in high school to do art classes, and I finished high school and I entered the architectural school of the Canary Islands, where I'm from. And everything was working really well. I was really happy. And everybody that studies architecture in the first year learns about the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus was a movement, a very short movement between the two world wars. From 1919 to 1933, this school that started in Germany and then had to move to the States, started by Walter Gropius. And the whole concept was very simple but very effective. People didn't have any money, but people needed objects and needed tools and needed furniture and needed things. So they went from the concept of old hand-making things and whole island kind of creator where somebody just creates from wood a chair to let's collaborate. Let's get a lot of people inside the school, kind of like the best of every field, and we have artists, engineers, designers, architects, everybody that kind of could feel the purpose in a short space, because the only problem they had was the physical space they needed to do this. So they changed the world with the idea of let's make things simple, functional, cheap, and for mass-produced for everybody, and with the idea of making it for people. So they, like, the first chairs that were made as a one-piece thing and were mass-produced and was for everybody came from here. And they had this really cool concept of let's gather together, and it doesn't matter what's your interest, you can put something in. So for example, Kandinsky participated as an artist in the creation with Marcel Breuer of this chair, which seems odd, but it worked really well. And like everything we see around us today comes from them. It seems like how like chairs that can change your height and they can move around come from them. They also did really fancy stuff, but that's for somebody that needs something more comfortable or more specific. So I started getting really, in a very insanely way, kind of got really obsessed with the Bauhaus, as in what's the current movement that kind of feels the same way as I felt that in architecture that was gone. Like the movement had already done everything it could with its limits, and there was nothing comparable. So I was one day in kind of at the end of the first year, no, actually in the middle of second year, I was talking with a friend, and I was really into technology, as he said. I had done some programming before, and he started talking to me about Linux, which I knew about, but I hadn't heard the whole idea behind it. And it instantly clicked. Free software is the new movement, is the new Bauhaus, is the new social revolution, in a sense that it kind of portrays the same ideas of anybody can help, anybody has something to say, anybody can be part of it. And the whole goal is to be simple, humane, functional, and be specific if you want it to be. So there's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come, as Victor Hugo says. And Bauhaus had a very obvious limitations. They had a closed space. Only people could travel there, and it was very hard to get there, as they had only the best, as in. But now we don't have the limitation. We have interaction. We have a communications technology. We can share without any cost ideas. And that's the whole concept. We have to share ideas with our new technologies, and everybody can be part of this global community. So getting back to my story and kind of finishing it. So I dropped off of architecture, which kind of made sense to me. I started studying computer science, and currently I'm working for Sun Microsystems, and I'm an Ubuntu developer, and I think things worked out well, and I really feel that I've been doing something valuable with my life. So this is like the first story of a member of the Ubuntu community. So what is Ubuntu? This actually was just in case not many people were Ubuntu users. So I kind of just going to run it through since everybody knows about this in this crowd. So it's free and open source software, which means we are here to share, pretty much. And that's a pretty beautiful concept, and it works really well. It's derived from Debian, a strong focus on usability. And this is what Ubuntu kind of changed in the free software community. There was this idea of free software and Linux are very geeky tools, and they're very hard to use, and they're for like expert super users or power users. And this doesn't have to be this way. GNOME as a desktop tries to be as usable and is much more usable than any than other desktops I can imagine. For example, some like one based on some design thing. So why was this happening? I kind of have the feeling it was kind of like people wanted to be part of an elite. And I remember when Ubuntu came out, having talks with people would be like, no, but we have to keep Linux as something complex and cool, because I don't want everybody to use it. As in, people had pride of being of a small group of we are the power users. And that was totally insane. I couldn't understand the idea. I was like, no, we have to get this to more people as possible. The whole concept of the developers is the thing they're getting back is people using it and the kudos. So let's get this to the more people we can. 30% of desktop installations in 2007, which was the last time this statistic was kind of made in an official way, of desktop Linux are Ubuntu, which is really impressive, as back in 2007, it kind of still was a pretty young distribution. The whole idea behind Ubuntu is humanity to others. It's a Zulu word